for our first of a pleasure to be here before working with outlines and some semblances of a curriculum, but we have not had a bona fide curriculum that was board approved for quite some time. We have embarked upon a very intense but very what I think will be a very productive journey of designing our own curriculum. You have options when you're doing curriculum design. You can buy one off the shelf. There are plenty of companies out there and agencies that are willing to sell a district our size a curriculum and then actually bring the professional development with that. Or you can take another approach, which is to build your own curriculum inside out and with the teachers and with the talent that's right here. My assessment was that the talent to build a curriculum is here. That there's the expertise in subject area and the expertise across grade level to bring us to the point of building our own curriculum, obviously with the help of an outside organization that will guide us and will give us good input and advice. But at the end of the day, we want to have something that's kind of for us, by us, to deliver to our students. And so some 300 teachers, a couple of Saturdays ago, is that right, Dr. Martin? Some 300 teachers apply. Well, they were successful in their application to be a part of this effort, and now they're busy writing that curriculum. And they're being compensated accordingly for it. Some of that time is during the day, during the weekday. Some of that time is on weekends, but they're at work. Some of them from Stephenson, home of the Jaguars, to write a curriculum K-12 in the 4 core subject areas. We're going to start with those. So by March of 2017, we expect to have a bona fide curriculum to present to the board in the 4 core subject areas: math, science, English, and social studies, and in the what we call the CTAE, the career, technical, and agricultural education component. So that's something that we're working on. You'll hear more about that, but I wanted to share that with you. Other piece, and it'll be the last piece before we go to questions, is something that's very significant that we are still working on, but we launched really last year, and that is the embedding of restorative practice in our discipline code. We have a discipline code. We have a code of conduct in which students and how they need to conduct themselves and behave, but now threaded through that at the beginning, at the middle, during the course of when a student is, we've made a bad decision and it may be going through a suspension, expulsion, or whatever, and then on the other end, our commitment is to make sure that we do not take a hands-off approach, let's put it that way, to our students, even as they have made difficult and bad decisions. We want to help them get back on track and restore them back to their graduation trajectory. And so in that vein, we have rewritten our code of conduct. The restorative practice is tied to My Brother's Keeper, and it's tied to a national effort in which we are trying to do our best to not play a role in the prison to pipeline scenario with regard to our young men and our young ladies getting early infractions, early suspensions, and then that cascades into the interaction with the juvenile justice and cascades into incarceration and so on like that, and we want to offset that. And even if they've made some of the most severe decisions, we want to, at age 16, at age 15, at age 14, make sure that they have an opportunity and we work with them to restore them back to a pathway of graduation. So with that being said, those are just a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that you're aware of, and also wanted to, I want to begin by introducing to you my cabinet as well. Members of my cabinet, would you please come up? I want you to start to put a name with a face and a face with a name with the members of the cabinet. There have been some changes that have been made, and I'd like for them all to come forward. You know the drill. Regional superintendents, too, please be together in a sequence, and I want them just to say their name and the role that they play. What y'all doing?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eileen Houston Stewart, and I'm the Chief Communications and Community Relations Officer.
Good evening. I'm Leo Brown. I'm the Chief Human Capital Officer.
Good evening. My name is Ramona Tyson, and I serve as the Chief of Staff.
Good evening, Vassan Tinsley, Deputy Superintendent for Student Support and Intervention.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Martin. I'm the Chief Academic and Accountability Officer.
Good evening. My name is Michael Bell, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Hackmeyer. I'm the Chief Legal Officer for the district.
Good evening, Sherry Johnson, Interim Region 1 Superintendent.
Good evening, Trenton Arnold, Regional Superintendent for Region 2.
Good evening, Rachel Ziegler, Regional Superintendent, Region 3, Stephenson, home.
Good evening, Trisella Weaver, Region 4 Superintendent.
Good evening, Region 5 Superintendent Ralph Simpson.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want the regionals to stay up here. Everyone else can have a seat, please. Thank you very much. Give them a round of applause. 5 regions and 5 regional superintendents. You've probably heard something about decentralization, a reorganization that has taken place inside of DeKalb County School District. In a previous structure, these individuals did not report directly to me. They reported to another deputy who reported to me, and there was a layer of bureaucracy that was complicated, at least in my estimation, some things. Now they report directly to me. The entire cabinet meets once a week, every Monday from 8 to 11, and we have deep dive into the things that we need to work on to advance the mission and vision of the school district. And then I meet with them. In addition to that, every Wednesday we meet as a group of superintendents to focus on what needs to happen. Each of them now has, which they didn't have before, their own micro cabinet. So there's the large cabinet, but they have someone, for instance, Sherry has someone in human capital management. She has someone in IT. HCM, Human Capital Management. She has someone in professional learning. She has someone in maintenance, in transportation. So she has her own cabinet that she meets with to drive service directly down. And we're not there yet. We've still got a ways to go, but service directly to the region rather than the bureaucracy up top. And each one of them has their own micro cabinet. So let's give them a round of applause. Okay.
Good evening, and thank you so much for coming to Stephenson so that we all can get a chance to meet with you. I'm a director of a local college here, but I'm also a concerned parent. And as the November referendum draws near and voters start to go to the polls, I'd like to hear your ideas on the
OSD.
Proposed Opportunity School District. I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, let me just briefly outline where I am with that. I come to this situation that DeKalb County School District faces with a lot of experience in working with districts. The district that I previously led, I had a significant role in leading them through the threat of state takeover due to being unaccredited. And that's a whole long story, but so I don't have, put it this way, I've said it in the paper and to the media, and I'll say it right here, I am opposed to state takeover no matter what it's called, OSD or recovery or all those different names that I've heard them called. I'm opposed to that. I'm opposed to the erosion of local control. Elected officials, once you start getting into the habit, then I'm coming from a political standpoint and then I'm coming from an academic standpoint. Once you start unraveling democracy, this is me personally. Once you start chipping away at democracy, you have an elected official, you have a school board that's elected, and you start to say you're no longer. That's a slippery slope. In all of my social studies teachers will probably echo that. That's a slippery slope. But the other challenge I have with it on the academic side is there's no evidence to show that state takeover has worked. It's been tried in several different places. It's been tried. They tried it in Missouri. They tried it in Louisiana and the post-Katrina scenario. They've tried it in Michigan, in Detroit, with a kind of separate school district for underperforming schools, et cetera. All of them have failed. They tried it in Missouri with a smaller school district when they couldn't take over to Kansas City, and the district actually got worse. So I have concerns about that. I know that turnaround, as I worked with my team to turn around that school district in Kansas City, is deep, hard, intense, and up close and personal work. You cannot come from the outside and just superimpose and develop the kind of relationship that it takes to turn a school district around or turn a school around. And so, in essence, I take pride in the fact that the kinds of things that we're doing right now with our schools that are on that list are the kinds of things that research says works. And so we're investing over $6 million into those schools that need the greatest amount of work. And I'll invite Dr. Martin to come up and talk about it, but it's pretty deep and intense work, looking with academic coaching, bringing in additional resources, working with the community to uplift those, work with the students and work with the families, and the families are going through some tough times. And so that is a part of the reason why the struggle is on. So we step into the struggle with those schools, and we're going to lift those schools up, and we're going to see dramatic gains. They still may be below 60. Some are going to make 20-point gains that might still be below 60. My assessment is that progress will override, will take on its elevation over time. And that work that we're doing right now, which is the research-proven work, should continue uninterrupted. Interference by an outside agency would actually set the process that we put in motion back. So that's really kind of where I stand in a nutshell. Did that clarify your question? Yeah, I'm not in favor of it, but we could go on. Do see Dr. Martin. Yeah.
Is there an exit interview process for the teachers that end up leaving the system? And I ask this because at my child's elementary school, I had an older child go there. There were teachers that went there they had taught there for years. And all of a sudden, principal came, they started leaving. And I'm wondering if their input was taken prior to them leaving to figure out why they were leaving.
The short answer is yes, there was. The more suitable answer is that it wasn't as sufficient as we would like it to be, the exit interview process, and we've added more to that to embellish it more so, and we've become more aggressive and assertive in identifying and not identifying, but pursuing and getting information about teachers and not just teachers, but other staff, why they left. My board has been very insistent upon us doing that. We see the value of that because that's how you learn. And so we're trying to, again, the recidivism on surveys is not very good. You're getting information back. And so we're looking at creative ways to, even to the point of, some board members have proposed before they get that last check, we want to hear why they're leaving. We want to hear why they're leaving, so we learn. And I will say this: we've taken a pretty deep dive look at the turnover of staff, and particularly the turnover of teachers. We presented to the board. Particularly, I had all the regional superintendents. Any school that had over 10 teachers leave, I wanted a deep kind of analysis of why. 10 within the year. 10 within the year. Well, then you were on the list, because that made the list of a deep analysis of an in-depth. If it was 6, we kind of didn't, but if it was 10, double digit anywhere in the district, we have a pretty good report, and we broke into the why, and say it was 12, why those 12? How many were a part of dissatisfaction with the leadership, dissatisfaction with the environment? How much was it our non-renewal of their, which was to break down the 10 or 12? That's kind of where we are right now. Dr. Brown, you want to come up and talk more about what we're doing in that area as well? Because it falls under human capital management.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Yes, so we realized we had an opportunity to capture more information relative to the attrition rate for all of our employees, teachers and non-teachers. And so we recently revised the exit survey tool, and it went live on September the 12th. To allow us the opportunity to ask them to complete a survey with more information where we can disaggregate it by teacher or non-teacher. But also we realized we had the opportunity to ask them, after you complete the survey, do you still want to come and talk to somebody? So we allow them the opportunity to contact us, and we get information right on the spot. If they want to set up an appointment, we get it instantly. If they want to set up an appointment and talk to somebody that's not in the school, they're in central office, so that we can learn why they leave and whatever we can do to help do that. And then we have set up quarterly meetings with our research group that will allow us the opportunity to identify trends and benchmarking so we can see how we compare relative to other comparable school districts of this size.
So we look forward to the reports that'll come back out of that and what we learn, and it'll be the mirror reflection. You know, this is why, and this is the trend, and we got to look at that and face it and address it.
With the surveys, have you all thought about having a survey for the teachers, the ones who are teaching now, to see how we can improve, why teachers are leaving, why they're dissatisfied, why the morale is low? Have you all thought about having a survey to find that out?
I do believe we have the Culture Climate Survey that's annually. Yeah, might as well.
So we're currently putting together a climate survey for all of our employees, not just teachers, but all of our employees, so that we can ascertain why people stay. We also put together a committee on teacher retention that's comprised of principals who've experienced low turnover, so that maybe we can find some hidden gems in the district so that we can duplicate those throughout the district. As well as on that teacher retention committee, we'll also have some teachers that we can actually learn from and hear from personally why they stay. Again, we want to be able to duplicate those things across the district so that we can keep people here for those hidden gems that are working great. Ideally, we'd like to institute some sort of teacher retention mechanism or process in every single school.
And I think we're going to learn more and more as we go, because I think your question well taken. If morale is low, we need to know that. I don't know if it's across the district or if it's in one pocket or another. I need to know so I can respond accordingly. I will say to this, I just don't want to look at turnover and assume that all the turnover, I want to understand the anatomy of turnover and deep dive into turnover, because to be quite honest with you, in some cases, maybe folks should leave. Because the way in which we are stepping up and going to step up our standard, that people may find their way out of the system because it wasn't what it was. And we're not going to be what we were. In some cases, it's because the leadership is not right. In some cases, it's because the environment or the culture is not right, and we need to fix that. So I want to get into the why deeply, and not just step back and look at a series of numbers and just say we had attrition here or we had folks leave. And in some cases, it should be taking place, and in other cases, it should not be taking place. And we want to retain those who want to step with the vision going forward, and the level of accountability that's put in place now. And we want to help those for whom that's not a good fit find another direction. So it's really about getting into the deep understanding of why, and I would be receptive to focus groups inside on an ongoing basis with current staff and teachers to have those conversations about what's going on with morale, why is there dissatisfaction here, and why is there excitement and enthusiasm here. So I think all cards are on the table, I guess is what I'm saying.
One more part to it, and that is, do you know how soon you'll be doing that survey or having it out to personnel in DeKalb County?
How soon will the survey? Within the next 90 days, it'll come out. And we've done a survey like this before, Mr. Hudson, right? But it's like 5 years ago, or so it's time anyway.
I'd like to know, what does the district have planned to do to encourage parental involvement?
Yes, that is huge for us. We've got some of our folks who work in that area here. We're doing a number of things already, but I want to see more. You want to come up and talk about that, Miss Cowan? She's heads up parent engagement. We have a whole office devoted to parent engagement. And she falls under Student Support and Intervention, which is the chief of Student Support and Intervention right here, close to me. Counselors, social workers, parent engagement right here, and this is the parent engagement. So you've seen the organizational structure. So this reports directly to me, and then she reports directly to her. So which one of y'all wants to go first?
Let you go. Okay. Let you start.
I'll start. I first want to acknowledge that our Parent Center facilitators are here. Would you please stand? We have 6 parent centers across the district. And if there's anything family engagement going on in the community, you will find not one, sometimes 2, but most times all of us out here. We know that family engagement is not for core content related. So we're building an organization that is supporting our parents not only in the academic components of their children's lives, but supporting them from the standpoint of wraparound services. We've partnered with the United Way. All of our centers are United Way centers that any of our parents can go into and find the services that are available to them in the community in our centers. They don't have to go far. We've partnered with the Student Support Services Department to offer workshops on stress management, on financial literacy, you name it. We're running the gamut now for our district in terms of building support for our families. We're partnering with Georgia Piedmont for our parents to get their GEDs. For those who want to go further, they're able to continue their education in those pathways. So a lot of things are going on. I don't want to take up too much time, but you can talk to any of the facilitators. They're all here tonight except for Region 2. But you can talk to any of us and we can tell you about the workshops that we have that are going on for all of our parents in all of our regions.
Thank you. And also, many of our schools have parent liaisons that are in the buildings. And so they're working directly with the school leadership to find out the needs of the parents in the community, to work with this group so that we can make sure that we're addressing those needs. One thing that's unique that we've done, we started last year and we're doing this year, is we're working with DeKalb Workforce and we're having job training and job fairs for our families as well. So a lot of the wraparound services and outreach for parents to start with some of those basic needs that families need assistance with, in hopes that if we work with those levels, then we can get them to the point where they can help their children in school.
And to prove how much we want you involved, we're in the process of getting ready for Advanced Ed, which is our accreditation. And so we have laptops set over there, and I'm inviting everyone to take that opportunity to complete the parent survey, because see, that information would be helpful to us as we prepare for accreditation. So we're serious about it. We have a whole table right there, so I'll make sure if you've done your survey, please do so. Thank you.
Good commercial?
Yeah, that's
good commercial. Let me share with you also a new piece that was added this year that I was really proud to see our parent engagement, parent family support add, was the Parents Pounding the Pavement, in which we had seminars for our parents on updating their resumes, interviewing skills, and financial literacy to prepare. And actually, many of them, we had workshops first, and then we had a job fair for them to actually put those skills into practice and actually apply for jobs. And we're going to expand that. That turned out to be very successful. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. I have 2 concerns. One of them is, sometimes when you contact your office, it's a challenge to try to get a hold of whoever you need to get a hold of. And the second concern is, as a parent who is involved, it's not always a delightful experience when you have to deal with either the front office or the administration or the teachers or sometimes even the counselor. So that's my concern.
Okay, good point. That's an area that's a sensitive area for me, because I think we've got to get better in that area. I've heard that. That's not the first time that I've heard that. And my team knows that responding to phone calls and getting back, and then when you do get back, the customer service, the manner in which you engage with parents and stakeholders is critical. And Believe it or not, every call that comes in gets to me one way or another. I have a phenomenal staff, my chief of staff and the office staff there, my executive assistant. They document every call that comes into my office. Not all calls get to me. They are sometimes directed to my regional superintendent, which is part of the proper protocol, but I see the frustration. I read every one of them, and because it's summarized what the parent was calling about, and the parent saying, this is my 19th time calling. When I see that, I get irate, really. Or I've called and I was treated like this. And so, believe it, when the call comes in and I see the call get redirected to a regional superintendent who then gets to a principal to handle the situation, my expectation is that that gets cleaned up, and I do track those. So there is a monitoring system. When your call comes into my office, it is not just ignored. It comes into my office, it's documented, date, time, and a narrative that comes through my chief of staff to me, and then the directive to the, could go, hello? And then there's a tracking monitoring system to make sure that that is followed through on. So we got to get better, though. It's not good right now. It's the way where I want it to be. I'd give us, I don't know, high D, C right now, but we got to get better. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. You got somebody?
Hi. My question is about the Georgia lottery. All of those millions of dollars, where is that money really going? Why isn't it to pay the teachers more money, because they deserve it, teaching our kids? And where do you really see the money in the schools? Do the schools really get some of that money?
This being the completion of my first year, I haven't seen, at least it labeled that lottery money. So I'm going to, Chief Financial Officer, do we get, Dr. Bell, does the lottery money show up in some way, but it's what it was called in our books from the State Department? But either in spite of that, we've given our teachers raises. We're going to continue to do that. We gave them raises mid-year in January, all teachers, and then everybody got a raise in July, and we're already having the conversation. If the digest holds and the fund balance holds, isn't that right, Dr. Bear? We're having that conversation now about, as we come around again in January, raises again to be competitive in that area. But I don't know how much of that is lottery money.
Thank you. Our general operating budget is funded at about 50% local revenue, which is about $450 million, and 50% quality basic education, QBE funds, which come directly from the state. We do not receive in the school district any of the Georgia lottery proceeds unless some of that is going into the state and they're using that to fund QBE. The Hope Scholarship Program really takes up most of the Georgia lottery funds, but that's at the collegiate level. We do not get directly lottery funds at the school district. I don't think we get any money for pre-K. We do? Okay. Yeah. Hey.
I thought Sebastian was going to speak to
No, I was going to speak on Hope Scholarship,
Okay.
but
Go ahead. Hope Scholarship
Yep.
and pre-K.
Hope Scholarship.
so I wanted to mention that, yes, a lot of the funds, as Dr. Bell mentioned, go towards the Hope Scholarship and Hope Grant that helps students, once they graduate from our schools, to further their education, when they go on into the world of work and certificated programs and college. So that's a large chunk of that money, but that doesn't come in directly to the school district. The students get that once they graduate from high school.
So in the K-12 space, though,
Right.
K-12, we don't get any money. It's on either end.
Correct.
It's on the Hope Scholarship end after they left us, it's on the college, or it's on the pre-K end before they get.
Before they qualify.
Before they get to K-12.
No examples in the really?
Okay, pre-K, we do receive pre-K money. Now, please understand that pre-K, there are limited seats and there are restraints and regulations that come with that money, and those sites do have to be approved by the state as well as the program that goes along. We get about $8 million in pre-K money, and we have pre-K programs in our elementary schools across the entire district.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening.
Good evening.
I have one thing that I wanted to go back to. You were talking about the letters, not the letters, but the telephone calls.
Yeah.
I come from the corporate world, and in the corporate world, if a letter went to the CEO, somebody answered that letter. Now, it may not have given you the solution, but somebody acknowledged that the letter was sent and received. And I know that that doesn't happen. And I think that's something that needs to happen, because that's discourteous to the end user to have them send you a letter and you don't even acknowledge it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like I said, we're not where we should be in that area. And so I concur with you that that is an area that's a sore spot for us in terms of just not only phone calls and letters. We just have to get better at and clean that up and make sure that we get, even if, like you said, if we get back and it's not necessarily the answer, but getting back is a courtesy and a matter of respect. I agree with that.
What I'm really interested in is this redistricting issue that I understand we're not going to be getting one of the prize programs moved to the southern part.
The Chamblee Magnet, right.
Yeah. I can't understand in my mind why it's okay for our children on this end of the county to get up at the ungodly hour of 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning to get on buses, to go to transfer points, to go to North DeKalb just for a class. It would seem to me that we either replicate that program down here, or we bring the program down here and we let the folks who are having the crowding problem, let them truck down here for a change.
Yes, and I think that's certainly part of the process that we're working through right now. But I think you heard from, was it yesterday's report, that there doesn't seem to be a desire to move that magnet, so that throws us into replication. Question is, how do we replicate something like Chamblee Charter Magnet or the Magnet program here? I mean, we have Arabia Mountain, but do we look at other types of alternatives?
I just say one thing. The program, the Chamblee program, the Chamblee Middle, Chamblee High School program, is replicated. There's the North program, which is Chamblee Middle, Chamblee High School, and Kittredge. Then in the South, there's the same exact program, which is Wadsworth Elementary to Chapel Hill Middle to Southwest DeKalb. So that same program is replicated in both in the North and the South. So that replication is already there. It's just as a clarification.
That, for me, begs the question, why do we have so many people moving their children from down here to go to the north side if it already exists here? Something is wrong. It doesn't connect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole nother question.
Okay, so right. So the question then, I think what he's saying is, and what you're saying is, they're not comparable. They may be unless we're dealing with that whole perception thing that I'm learning about, have learned about in terms of the north south. Yeah, right. And so, and that could mean a lot of things in terms of the perception of what you're getting, just because of where it is. I'm trying to be careful here now. Well, no, there's knowledge, but I don't know if geography is your issue, then that's not going to solve that problem.
I think you can have the same program, but you don't have the same teachers. Teaching the program or quality.
Okay, so you're saying it is unequal then, not the perception, it is unequal.
There is obviously something different on the north
Okay, but we want to be respectful of the mic here, so let's follow the protocols. So get the mic. Give you the mic. Now.
Well, I've already said what I'm.
Okay, well, you spoke out of turn. Do you know? No, just like we want to respect the protocol of people getting the mic, and so we're going to bring the mic over to you. But yeah.
Good evening. When you started off, you had said that you guys were working on a new curriculum that we
Correct.
should see sometime in 2017. Are we going to make sure that our new curriculum will come with the accompanying learning materials, such as books or educational materials? Because right now, to me, it seems that we don't have all of the learning materials that's needed.
The materials, the professional learning that needs to accompany it, yes, it's going to be, I'm very optimistic about, we're basically starting from scratch. And so my goal and my expectation is that we will do this right. It won't be a hodgepodge of different things kind of clumsily stuck together. It'll be a very sequential and in terms of vertically articulated. It'll be deep and it'll be consistent, rich, robust, and wrap around that the professional learning. In fact, what I'm looking forward to most is something that I've had the chance to experience, is those who help write it will actually train the others to teach it. So the key piece is the scaffolding around the curriculum, the books, the IT, the technology, and the professional learning that needs to go with it. That's what we're building in right now as we speak. So it's all being advanced together rather than happenstance kind of patch quilt. So, again, we'll get the feedback, because at the end of the day, the outcome for students and the way in which they respond and the instructional quality should change as a result of this endeavor. And that's what I'm looking for. That'll be the test for me as to whether it's working or not. Whether students are responding to it, and the training that the teachers have in the curriculum, and many of them teaching what they helped write and design, I think that will make a difference. I'm banking on that. If I don't see that, then we'll look at something else. She has a follow-up.
I'm sorry, just a follow-up. So just to make sure that, so when you go from school to school, then each school should be learning the same materials, or the same materials as outside of your magnet programs, because I know we don't have that currently.
Right. That's what I'm striving for. That's what should happen. And I'm not one who's not in buildings. People will tell you I devote Friday, and I'm on the roam Friday morning. Every Friday morning I'm out and about in schools, and it's unannounced. I show up, and my team knows that, and I have a random set of schools that I'm visiting, and I meet with the principal out of courtesy, and then we go right to classrooms, and I sit in classrooms and watch the quality of instruction, and then I give feedback on that. And in addition to that, the whole central office team and the curriculum instruction team, starting when in October 12th? October 14th, we do this multiple times a year, we canvass this school district, and we train up on what we're going to look for, the level of rigor or a certain feature of instruction, and then we descend into the classroom to see the quality of work that's going on, and we upload all that information into a database, and we assess where we have pockets of low-level teaching and where we need to ratchet it up, and where we see quality we want to complement that. So even members of the team who are not necessarily classroom teachers, like Dr. Bell, who works with the numbers, he gets trained up. He's got to go in the classroom. But not only this group here, but also our executive directors and others. How many do we send out?
I don't know the total number, but we go all the way down to all of our content coordinators within curriculum instruction, our coordinators in federal programs.
It's a massive insertion into the classroom, and it's about getting better. So the feedback that comes from that is designed to sharpen. And and we'll be honest, what we've seen is sometimes we've seen some great teaching, but when we look at the rigor meter, the level of rigor, we want level 3, 4, and it's at 1, 2. So we're now pushing to ratchet up the challenge to students, to make them stretch. So we see great teaching, great classroom management, things are going on, but one of the things that we want to push for is the kind of conversation and thinking that's going on to problem solve and push the rigor meter over to the higher level of learning. That's our level of concentration.
you for having us here tonight. I'd like to know, have you vowed to close the school-to-prison pipeline? And if so, what are you doing to close that?
Yes, yes. That's near and dear to my heart. In fact, we can talk about what just took place. It was yesterday. But even before I came here, I was tied to President Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper. I sat with him with a number of other superintendents. We were the backdrop when he announced it several years ago, his commitment, particularly for our males of color. And then I took that into the school district that I worked for then. That same thing was already here. I was excited when I knew that they'd had a summit. That they'd had a summit the previous May. That same thing is here. In fact, this school district was one of the first school districts to kind of latch on to My Brother's Keeper. So we have signed a resolution, a pact with the board. The board signed a pact that we're going to look at the prison to pipeline. And I say the prison to pipeline starts way before anything happens with regard to the judicial system and the criminal system. It starts in the early grade levels. It starts with, and I mentioned that earlier, it starts with multiple referrals, suspension, expulsion, juvenile justice. And so here's what the pledge, the resolution that we signed with the board last fall commits us to looking at the numbers of students that are overrepresented in suspensions and expulsions and reducing that, and looking at the numbers of students who are underrepresented in IB, AP, honors, and doing this. And then giving a quarterly report to the board on here's the effect of our work in this area. We commit to doing it, and we're going to monitor ourselves and hold ourselves accountable and report to it. And so it speaks to an area what in education terms we call disproportionality. There's disproportionate representation of expulsions and suspensions, and disproportionate underrepresentation in some other areas that are more positive. And so we are heavily plugged into that in a very deep way to do that. And so we got My Brother's Keeper has been going for a year. Well, it's really been here for longer than a year. And we had a great summit, a second summit in last May. Running alongside of that is coming online is My Sister's Keeper, because we've seen the human trafficking that's been going on, and this is an area that is a target for that area. We've seen the kinds of things that decisions our young sisters are making, and so we're after that area, and we're going to run that parallel with My Brother's Keeper, and we're going to launch that in this coming spring, bring the resolution coming up in November, December. But I'm going to ask Dr. Simpson to come forward. He is our point person, and Dr. Tinsley to come forward. These are our 2-point people in the area of disproportionality. In addition to their regular duties, I have called upon them to address this issue that you've just raised about the prison to pipeline, because I do not want to be a part of that. Everywhere I've gone and every job I've had, I have worked on this, and the board has said you have the license to go forward and work on this. So Dr. Simpson, he just came back from Washington, D.C., representing us with My Brother's Keeper at school districts that were on board with this across the country, and he just finished an institute, or just had an institute with what we're going to do right here.
Yes, sir. And Dr. Green, thank you. Yes, please give it to him. Yes, absolutely. He covered all of what I would have possibly even said, but I will just emphasize one or 2 points just to give you something to think about. The focus in what we're trying to do is get our educators to focus on the doer and not the deed. Let me say that again. The doer and not the deed. Because what we've done traditionally or historically in our school district is focused on the deed. What we're asking our educators to do is to have the conversation first and then talk about consequences last. So those two things coupled together will force us to have to make our decisions a little bit different in terms of the way in which we go about punishing children. Because quite frankly, what we've done and what we've been doing, unconditionally or unconsciously, is severely punishing students for the most minor offenses. Now, honestly, that doesn't look any much different from what's being done in the criminal justice system. So we recognize that, we own it, we admit it, and we have to We're honest about it, but we're also committed to the fact that we've got to do something to change it. So to continue going down this road, because this directly has an impact on academic achievement. If they're not in school, we can't teach them. If they can't learn, they can't matriculate to another grade or grades, and they can't graduate from high school. So all of this has a direct connection to academic achievement. So just those two things you leave with: the doer and not the deed, the conversation before consequences.
Thank you, Dr. Simpson. And so, as Dr. Green mentioned, we are also focusing on our young sisters, because that's an area, a group of students that we really need to look at. We have a lot of girl-girl aggression, or female-female aggression, as you like to call it. We're seeing a lot of that in the schools. And when we drill down and we look at the data, we look at the disciplinary referrals and things of that sort, and we talk to the students, we find out that it really boils down to self-esteem. It boils down to unfortunate situations that they may have been involved with, abusive situations, like I said, self-esteem, instability in the homes. So while we're focusing on the males, we want to come and lift up our young ladies as well. One of the things that we're going to look at, Dr. Green mentioned trafficking and some of those societal ills, but we're going to be focusing on things such as cyber safety, internet, branding. How do young ladies, how are they branding themselves? And you know, I'm sure you're aware with social media, you've got Instagram and Snapchat and all these other vehicles out there where unfortunately we're seeing young ladies putting very suggestive pictures out there, not realizing the impact that that's going to have on them as they get older and they look to graduate and go for, you know, employment. So looking at that, as well as additional exposures, our STEM areas, focusing on coding, helping our young ladies to know the other opportunities that are out there for them as we go into the non-traditional areas that young ladies are now being successful in. So we're very, very excited about this, and we'll be taking a resolution to the board soon.
And the training that we just had yesterday, I spoke to the group, the International Institute for Restorative Practice. They were here working with several of our schools that are going to institute whole school restorative practice. And then we're going to turnkey that training to across the district. So I just want to let you know we're working on that, but we're very committed to that.
Okay. I have the mic now.
Yeah, you're good.
Wanted to know, going back on that same question, I have two questions for you. How are you involving, because I know my sorority does an Ascend program, and it's not just for young ladies, it's for both young women and young men in grades 9 through 12. And we struggle with getting scholars, is what we call them. You know, have you, you know, asked the sororities and fraternities in the area, because we all do it. We just do it under a different name,
right, yeah.
But we do the same things. Have you asked them to be involved in the Sisters Keeper and the, I know Mr., and I think you're a Q? I'm sorry, an Omega? Okay. So, you know, my concern is that,
But,
you know,
yeah.
we need to be involved in our children's lives,
Right, yeah.
and that's one of the ways that we can.
Right.
So I would.
So the answer to your question is yes. I'm not serious. It's where we want it to be, but we have great relations. Let me try to answer your question. Okay, we have great relationships with our fraternities and sororities. I'm Kappa, and so I know that I brought that piece. He's Q Psi Phi. He's brought that. I spoke the other day, or right. It was really not the other day, the other week. The bootstrap, the boot camp. What is it? The Alphas have the boot camp. Yeah, right. Back to school boot camp and so on like that, and spoke to them. So some things are already in place. We want to embellish that. And I don't know, from the sorority side, talk to me, Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Phi Alpha.
Absolutely. So that's a major part of this campaign. We know we can't do it alone. And we know that we have active groups, not only just our Pan-Hellenic organizations, but other community stakeholders that have an interest in the same things that we're trying to do with the students in our schools. So that's going to be a major campaign, making sure that we bring them to the table, as well as some of our faith-based organizations as well. And with the Eileen Houston Stewart when she is working with the foundation, making that a part, many community partners that want to help us with the work. So yes, ma'am, please believe that that will happen.
And just let me add to that, and our call to action, because we have a call to action to the fraternities and sororities as well. And I'm gonna tell you why. There's probably not a fraternity or sorority out there that does not have one common principle. Sororities, I guarantee you womanhood is somewhere. Fraternities, I guarantee you manhood is somewhere. So we need to be about the business of making men and making women. However, there are a boatload of activities that go on from weekend to weekend that is focused and centered on the adults. So the call to action is going to be to spend that same energy and those same efforts. Now let's direct that in the children, because if every one of us, fraternity, sorority members, if we'll adopt one child, 1 day a week, 1 day a month, for 1 hour, then we can make a difference. So that's the conversation that Dr. Tinsley, who happens to be a Delta, and myself, but it has nothing to do with that, just the organizations itself. As an adult, as a professional, anyone that has something that they can offer, that's the commitment that we need to have. But truly and specifically for the organizations, for the Greek organizations, right now, in my opinion, the focus seems to be on activities centered around the adults more so than for the children. So we'll be calling y'all out too, and that's for my fraternity brothers as well.
First question, and I know we're getting on to the top of the hour, and the question that I have for you, Dr. Green, is after coming on after your first year, can you give me 5 accomplishments, major accomplishments that you've done since you came to the county?
I can give you more than 5, but I'll give you 5. First of all, your district is fully accredited. It wasn't accredited before I came here. You were not accredited. No, that was not. That happened in February 2016. When I came here, there were 3 things that were not done that needed to be done. Had we not done them, we would not be fully accredited. And we did those things, completed them by December 2015, and were announced fully accredited in February 2016, officially from Advanced Ed. I'm gonna tell you that. We got a $125 million fund balance. When I came here, it was $90 million. It's $125 million, and we took that money and we turned it right back into our workforce and gave raises to our teachers and to our staff overall. I just came out, it relates to this past year, SAT scores are up 8 to 9 points above where they were, and that was over this past year, but the data just came out and the press release just went out a couple of days ago. We are attacking, as I said I would, and as I promised I would, overcrowding in the Cost Keys, where young children who have less than, how do I put this? Something's been going on here for about 19 years, and nobody has dealt with it. Been longer than that. And everybody knows what's been going on. These are black and brown children. They may have some challenges with documentation. They didn't have a voice, and they didn't get splossed. And so the buildings are overcrowded now. We are attacking that problem head on. We're involving the community in the conversation around solving that problem, but we are being relentless and persistent about solving the problem of what I saw when I first came here, and I'm going to call it what I thought it was. It looked like concentration camps to me. When I first saw all those portables around there, I said, this looks like. And so we got the SPLOS vote, 71% vote, $500 million, the highest rating and approval rating since SPLOS has been in DeKalb County School District with how many years? SPLOS? 19 years? That piece we're doing. And I'll add another piece here. We have reorganized and redesigned without throw in the whole, because I've seen reorganization take place where somebody comes in and cuts everything and cuts everybody, and the system is dysfunctional and worse than it was before. We have reorganized, restructured, and refocused over the past year and are positioned, I'm not saying we're there yet, are positioned to go higher and better than we've ever gone before in the history of DeKalb County School District. We're positioned, we ain't there yet, but we're positioned to do so because we have the infrastructure in place to do so. And sometimes you got to build a foundation before you can take the launch. But we're building the foundation as we speak right here. That curriculum piece that you've heard passed by the board and so on. So those are the things I would offer to say that we have accomplished. There's many more things that are STEM. I could talk about STEM all day long, but our STEM footprint is wider and deeper than it's ever been. We are internationally recognized as in terms of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and we have one school that is dual certified with the state and with advanced ed, and we have more in the pipeline. So those are just a few things, a few nuggets that I would offer for that. Somebody said one more question. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Philip Parker, and those that know me know I have to say something. And you know, been here at Stephenson for 20 years as a parent, worker. This school is 20 years old, and still to this day, the school has not been painted with 1,500, sometimes 2,000 students. And I don't know if it's a buddy thing. You see this bright light right here? It's repaired now because they knew you were coming. And it was unrepaired for like at least 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it was blocked off, and we couldn't use this part of the cafeteria. Mm-hmm. Back in March, the dryer back here where we dry the uniforms caught on fire. It took forever to get the room repaired, and finally we got a dryer about 3 weeks ago. They just came and dumped it off and didn't install it. Mm-hmm. But since you came, they finally got it installed last week. Mm-hmm. So one of the...
Sounds like I need to be a whole lot of other places too.
It is.
But yeah.
And I have a photo here. Down on the track, we have 2 construction trailers that we've been using for storage. And that's really pitiful. Mm-hmm. I mean, it looks a mess down there. It's more than what the custodial staff can do here. They do a great job. And I mean, Stephenson is still a great school. We have great administration. We have great principals.
And great teachers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And both of my kids graduated from here. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But we need to get more support. I don't know if it's a buddy system going on where they don't want to come to Stephenson and do the repairs. Also, the boys' locker room, well, both locker rooms have not been painted in 10 years. And that's ridiculous. You know, toilets unrepaired for 6 months. And we need to get that taken care of. And why do we have carpet in a building when we no longer have carpet crews? You know, you can't keep vacuuming carpet that's 20 years old and expecting some of it's in the front office. You know, that's embarrassing. And we try to do what we can here at Stephenson, on Stephenson Road and other schools that I go around, but we can only do so much. And we on the south side, we need a little bit more of attention. And also, last thing is, we need some of the gate money for some of the football games and basketball games.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. But on your issue of the maintenance, and I don't know if you want to come up, Mr. Drake, we're up against it. I'll just be honest with you. Things post-recession, post whatever took place here, we're climbing up a mighty hill in terms of the way things fell into disrepair, and we're patching some things up, and so the need that we have is so much greater than the resources that we have. We have to kind of pick and choose where we go. We're going to bring some of these problems that we've rested. Now that I'm here, some of these things are going to get addressed, but we've got a challenge.
Like just getting a lift.
Yeah.
Getting the county to bring the lift so the custodial staff can go up and change the light bulb.
Okay.
You know, we can do that.
Just a few items. The Board of Education has approved over $8 million of additional facilities budget for this fiscal year, and with the decentralization, with the facilities maintenance down to the regional offices, there's more resources that have not been in the past. Additionally, as far as like painting, the painting crews were cut about 4 years ago. So as part of this additional infusion, hopefully we can start seeing more of these maintenance dollars being coming back down to these schools. And then
the external grass cutting crew.
yes. One other piece is that the board also approved, and for the first time, an external landscape maintenance firm for all schools, and you should start seeing it out there. We've heard a lot of good positive responses from a lot of the principals and the parents, and so it's very exciting and that allows that the one staff that had been going out there is now able to help service as a custodian within the school. So one other piece is that we do have about $2 billion worth of renovation needs in the district, and we only have $500 million of SPLOST funds that were approved. And of those $500 million, only $100 million over 5 years is going to be is actually for renovations. So we have basically a dime, less than a dime, for every dollar of needs that are out there in the schools. And so we are working to do with whatever we can with the very little amount that we do. And we do want to thank the voters for the approval of the SPLOST, but it is just a tiny piece of what is actually needed.
You said that.
Slade right here.
I have two questions. My first question is, out of that $8 million, what are we doing to fix the AC units in all of these schools? Because from the elementary school to the middle school to the high schools, these children since last year have been really suffering throughout the year. I mean, even during testing last year, the middle schools, the children had to suffer through. My child came home every day with a headache. So I'm trying to understand, what are we doing to get the AC units up to par?
One of the contractors, the on-call contractors, as part of the $8 million, is an HVAC contractor, which is just coming under contract right now. And so you should see a higher level of service of HVAC repairs probably starting the next few weeks. Additionally, there are SPLOST $4 that were just increased and allocated at the September board for additional HVAC work. And then as far as for SPLOST 5 coming up, there hopefully will be more money as far as the $100 million for HVAC repairs.
Did you get your second question? Or
The second question I have is, what are we doing to get our students, our children up to? Because in looking at the test scores, not even the schools or the state did well on the Georgia Milestone test.
Yeah, the Georgia Milestone being kind of new and a higher bar, I think everybody across the state is struggling to do what they need to do to get students up. But you heard the system that's in place, not only the curriculum that's being written, but also the inspection in classrooms. I'm one of those folks that I like to inspect what I expect. And so the expectation of higher teaching and learning, even though like I said, I've seen across the district great facilitation of classroom and great instruction in certain areas, but the level of the instruction is not at the caliber that will get them ready for the milestone. So we're, as an entire district, pulling and pushing up the quality of delivery of instruction and the kind of expectation of students. They will reach it. We have to assume that they will, and not just assume, but build the scaffolding because they will reach there. I think we've gotten, how do I want to say that, comfortable at a level that is lower than the standard of expectation. And it looks nice because everybody's getting along and kids are participating and there's a lot of back and forth, but the rigor, and so we're listening for the kind of conversation, not having students. It's one thing to have students list and state whatever is in a text. It's another thing to have them have the conversation about evaluating and comparing and contrasting and inferring. The biggest challenge across the state, I went to a state session and they said getting students to draw inferences and then support their inference with textual evidence to support that is the biggest challenge they're seeing, and that's what the Georgia milestones are asking students to do. So if we can just get good at that, read a text, draw an inference from that text, and then show how you drew that inference by showing the evidence that supports it, that's a skill that will last them for a lifetime, in college, in the workforce, everywhere. And that's the piece that we need to dial into our classrooms and make sure we see it in operation. That's what's going to be coming forward. That's what is in operation now. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you all for coming out this evening for a chat. I hope you got some information. I appreciate it. Have a great day.